Thank you for staying with us. The Senate has constituted a 13-member ad hoc committee to investigate how over $30 million was spent on Nigeria's Safe School program, a federal security initiative launched in 2014 to protect students and schools from attacks. The program was introduced in the wake of the Chibok schoolgirls' abduction and was designed to operate at different levels, including state-level efforts and national coordination through agencies such as the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps and the Safe School Parents Watch Network. And that's our conversation tonight as CEO Beacon Consulting Limited, Dr. Kabiru Adamu joins me for this discussion. Also, I have US-based security consultant, Dr. Nwachukwu Anankweze, who is also joining me virtually. That committee is mandated to examine how the funds were utilized on measures intended to secure students, teachers, and school infrastructure from the inception of the program to date. Gentlemen, good evening to you. Thank you very much for joining me on Politics Tonight. Good to have you, sirs.
Thank you, Jumoke. It's great to be here.
Thank you very much. Over the years since the Chibok incidents, there's been an undertone conversation about how unsafe our schools are, and if we have an effective security framework deployed to protect schools, especially in some of these high-risk states. But today, the Senate is trying to investigate how over $30 million was spent on the Safe School program, because clearly the threats the program aimed to address as far back as 2014 does not match with the right security interventions. Let me start with Dr. Anankweze. What kind of security infrastructure and services should $30 million reasonably cover in a program of this scale?
First of all, you need to have the security, the army, the air force well equipped with transport, communication gadgets, helicopters, and drones. It should be. And it should be 24 hours. All those bandits or all those kidnappers should be stopped. And it has to stop now because the world cannot tolerate it any further. People's life is precious. Not one person's life should be killed for nonsense, for religion nonsense. It cannot be tolerated. I'm saying it now. That must come to an end. Otherwise, the world have to intervene in Nigeria, African Union, the world have to intervene in Nigeria to restore peace and order.
Okay, so I do not think Dr. Anankweze understands that question. But let me come to you, Dr. Adamu. You know, what is not in doubt is not how mismanagement of this kind of program may have contributed to the continued vulnerability of our schools to attack. And also not in doubt is the kind of security risk that would arise when large-scale programs fail to deliver promised protection. You have monitored Nigeria's security challenges on a quarterly basis, and I mean, we appreciate how you timely share your reports with us. What would have been the most cost-effective investment for school protection?
Thank you, Jumoke, for the very kind words. And just to state that what we do is to the services that you mentioned, those reports, the objective is to help improve security in the country. We don't have any objective beyond that. And if security is improved, we'll be happy. The Safe School initiative is very clear. The objective is to reduce the vulnerabilities in schools. And what it did try to do, it has about 5 components. It has the physical security component, which speaks about fences, perimeter fences, speaks about installation of CCTVs. It speaks about illumination, that is light, gates, for instance. So these are basic physical security features that every security practitioner understands. So the Safe Schools Initiative recommended that. The second thing the Safe School Initiative did is a vulnerability assessment of our schools. And that responsibility was given to the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps. So in other words, map all the schools that we have within the country, identify their vulnerabilities, and then, of course, categorize them. Now, just to give you an example, the schools that don't have fences and that are in security challenged environments, that means their vulnerability is probably going to be extremely high. Sometimes it could be not they have fences, but then they're in an environment that a terror group or bandits are quite active. And so it means their vulnerability is also high. Other vulnerabilities may have to do with hazard. So maybe they are close to a factory that produces materials that are hazardous that could affect the students, or several other consequences. It could be water that could lead to flooding. So that vulnerability assessment was meant to map that. Now, we've been told by the civil defense that they've actually done that vulnerability assessment. What we haven't seen is them making it public or even making it available to stakeholders who will now use it, because the essence of that vulnerability assessment is to now prioritize the implementation of the Safe School Initiative. If schools are vulnerable and you want to reduce their vulnerability, you know which ones are in category A, high risk, category B, maybe medium risk, and then category C, low risk. You now start implementing the necessary changes to reduce the risk. This is simple risk management. Now, number three, also within the Safe School Initiative, is to have a squad, a tactical squad that would respond specifically to issues related to schools. In other words, help protect the schools better. Now, again, the civil defense was given that responsibility. The last record I have, and this needs to be corrected or corroborated, is that they were only able to dedicate or deploy 1,050 operatives from this squad. Now, you will agree with me that 1,050 across 774 local governments. Now, remember that we're not only talking about public schools, we're also dealing with private schools, we're dealing with religious schools. So 1,050 will not be enough. The fourth point is under the Safe School Initiative, we are supposed to have a rapid response number. In other words, a line dedicated to rapid response. If a school is under distress, is being attacked, that school should be able to call that particular number. And if I'm right, the NSCDC claims to have come up with that number, and it's supposed to be number 94. So again, before the end of the program, you can try it. If it's working, it means NSDC is correct. It's working. But I doubt if it's working. The last part, which I want to mention, is the issue of training. Now, the whole idea of training is to support the school environment to respond to distress situations. So students will be trained. If the school is under attack, this is what they need to do. If a whistle is blown, this is the action they should take. If two whistles are blown at the same time, this is, so all those signals that would identify danger, and then what they need to do, they're supposed to be trained. Embedded in that is the creation of what is called a school security committee or something like that, a committee in each of the schools that is supposed to manage security. And that committee is supposed to have membership of academic staff, non-academic staff, parents, the security organizations, and of course, civil society organizations. So if we're going to evaluate the success of the Safe School Initiative, it is to look at all of these items vis-a-vis the monies that have been devoted to the implementation. How well have those monies been utilized? The former government of President Buhari, in his wisdom, and may God bless his soul, he identified the Ministry of Finance as a possible lacuna to the success of the initiative. So what he did was to actually put the responsibility in the Ministry of Finance, and then gave a particular department, the Ministry of Finance, to manage, the various stakeholders. So we know that the monies from the Ministry of Finance were now deployed, as it were, to the various organizations, including Ministry of Education, the civil society organizations that were meant to do the implementation. So I'm quite delighted that the Senate has set up a committee. It's not going to be very difficult for the committee to do its work, in the sense that all of these things that I've mentioned are spelled out. The amount that have been collected are also there. So it will be easy to kind of trace back all of this over the last 11 years, see what monies was collected, see what those monies have been able to do, and then juxtapose that with the state of our schools. Like you rightly mentioned, our schools remain hugely vulnerable. In November alone, we saw 2 abductions, mass abductions, that affected schools.
All right. And it's important to say that, these 5 components you have just highlighted and the latest development from the Senate typically answer just one major question, which is why we have constantly, remained reactionary in this kinds of situation. Also, to add to that, the House of Reps, on the other hand, is saying This growing wave of kidnappings, armed robberies in the nation's capital is as a result of the failed $460 million CCTV project. But we would continue to monitor the process and, eventual outcome of that investigation. Let's move on quickly. Also this week, Mr. President has declared a security emergency. He has ordered the army, police to recruit more personnel. Some questions that but some say better late than never. Dr. Nankweze.
The expansion of the military and the police is in the right direction. It's done late, but we need to focus on the main thing. The main thing is, why do you have kidnappers? Why do you have people shooting at churches, killing innocent people? That's the main thing. Is you have to get back to the issues of tribal and religious bigotry. We need to focus on stamping it out in Nigeria. All the Nigerian groups should learn to live with each other. Christians should love Muslims and Muslims should love Christians. And all the tribes should work together. They all worship the same God of Abraham, the Muslims, the Christians, the Jews, and the African traditional religion. Why are they killing each other? The rest of the world fighting to preserve life. Look at a few days ago, somebody from Afghanistan, Muslim, shot 2 American policemen, and it's a big deal. It's on TV, it's round the clock. And because of that, they're taking aggressive steps. How come our government, they kill people, they murder people, 100, 200, and they take it lightly? And when they catch them, they release them. How can you be releasing people who are murderers and kidnappers? It's not just saying put up fence and put up this. You need to deal with the real issue. We need to come together and attack them and destroy them permanently. The solution is not waiting for police to come from Abuja or DSS from Abuja. You're wasting your time. You need to organize from the grassroots. The villages need to be well equipped. They need to have vehicles, the vigilantes, vehicles, motorcycles, equipment to find the terrorists that are terrorizing our community. They need to be equipped to fight back. They are the ones that can react immediately. If you're waiting for people to come from the state police or the federal police, everybody will be dead. You need to focus on how to protect yourself. That's how it's done in America, where I live. If you go and attack an American person's house, the wife has a gun, and the husband have a gun, and the husband have a rifle or some machine gun. They defend themselves. When the police come, those people are dead. Those people who are terrorists cannot come and go back alive. They have to be stopped. That's where my focus is. You should organize from your house, from your village, your town, local government, and the state. Vigilante, well equipped.
All right.
If you're strong, you have peace. If you're weak, you have problem.
All right, then. Dr. Nankweze has raised a valid question. Why has it been hard for us to arrest and prosecute these bandits? Well, I'll come back to you, Dr. Nankweze, so we have enough time to dissect that challenge. Dr. Dabo, according to World Bank data, as of 2020, the Nigerian Army, which has the largest number of personnel of the 3 forces, has less than 150,000 soldiers. In total, there may be less than 300,000 members of the armed forces. And this, must have made Nigerians appreciate this particular development from the presidency. But how should the government measure whether this emergency declaration and recruitment push are effective?
In simple terms, how they are able to reduce the security challenges. Unfortunately, we don't have the luxury of time. Even while the president made his announcement, I think on the same day, there was an attack, even in the Federal Capital Territory. I think a young girl was killed and about 6 other persons were abducted. So we don't have the luxury of time. People will measure the effectiveness of those measures by how they are able to reduce or even eradicate the security challenges. And as an expert, there are about 7 measures. I don't know if time would allow me to go through the measures one after the other, but suffice to say that I don't see the urgency in all the measures. The withdrawal of police from VIPs, we've been told by the Inspector General of Police that he's been able to withdraw 11,000. 11,000 is just a drop in an ocean. We need in the 774 local governments. When these bad guys come to attack Jumoke, they come on motorbikes, about 50 of them, and then 3 persons on each motorbike. So you are talking of at least 150 people, each with an AK-47. That's the smallest weapon they usually have. And on that AK-47, each one would have 2 magazines. That's 60 rounds on one person. If you multiply by that 150, you give an idea. So even if in each local government we have 10 policemen, they can't withstand this 150 when they attack. So clearly, that does not speak to me as an urgent measure. Besides, it will take time before, the mindset of these officers who have been used to working with VIPs, they can't go and stay in my village where probably there is no light. Mosquitoes will deal with them. So that mindset would also need to be changed and all of that. So frankly, I don't see the urgency in that. The second point around forest guards, also a beautiful initiative. I have applauded it. But then the last record data that we have says that only 2,400 of this, 24,000, not 2,400, 24,000 of this personnel have been trained so far. Now, even if you have all the 24,000 available and then you deploy them according to the 774 local government, how many will go to each local government? Will they be able to secure this forest where these bad guys? What is the weapon at their disposal? We've not been told if weapons have been acquired for them. And remember, I just explained to you the kind of weapons that is in the hands of these bad guys. So which means their own weaponry will have to either equate or even be higher than their own. So these are relevant questions. Suffice to say, I can go over all of the measures that the president has indicated. The urgency that we expect to see, Jumoke, we're not seeing that urgency. As an example, for me, an urgent step would be, and I say this with all sense of responsibility, a cabinet reshuffle, Jumoke. By all measures, the current cabinet, as far as security is concerned, needs to be improved. And I'm not saying, for instance, drop them. You could just jiggle them, move from one point to the other. Some of them, they have their purposes for being there. The president knows why they're there. So maybe moving them from one position to the other.
So for the purpose of clarity, Dr. Adamu, are you talking about the Ministry of Defense?
So there are 42 organizations within the security sector, Jumoke. Now, those 42 are divided into about 3 ministries. Yes, Ministry of, 3 ministries and one kind of organization. So the Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Interior, the Ministry of Police Affairs, and then, of course, the Office of the National Security Advisor. And then, to an extent, the SGF. If you divide all of these 42, they kind of enter into those places. A few of them enter the presidency directly. They kind of report to the presidency. So I'm speaking about all of these 5 levels. They are the strategic head. They provide direction. They are supposed to measure performance. They are supposed to facilitate cooperation, coordination, and collaboration. And like I said, by all measures and standards, they have failed in doing that. Jumoke, according to the database by my company, 9,000 Nigerians have been killed as at November 27th. That's yesterday. It's very likely that at the end of December, we're seeing probably 10,000 people being killed. So what else are we waiting for? And for me, that would be urgency. The second urgency that I would probably hope to see is for the president to declare war on banditry and declare war on terrorism in very strict terms. Use his powers as provided under section 30, subsection 2 of the Constitution, and section 5, subsection 1A of the Constitution, and declare war on those two things. Now, what that would do, it will empower the military. It will empower the other security agencies to, go after these elements that are waging a war against us. Anyone who is in doubt that these groups are waging a war against us, honestly, should wake up from his slumber. The president needs to look critically at that area, give a timeline to the military. How long did it take the Department of War in the United States to present a plan to President Trump when he said he was going to invade Nigeria? It took them just 48 hours thereabout, and they presented a plan to him. So I am hoping that the president will take a cue from that, and in very clear terms, declare a war on those two issues, on terrorism and on banditry, so that we use the powers of our state, the powers that the country has to go after all of these bad guys. I mean, enough is enough.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Adamu. Now let's take a break, and when we return, we'll continue this conversation. Please stay with us, everyone. Thank you very much for staying with us, everyone. We're still discussing security matters as President Bola Tinubu announces drastic security measures. And I've been speaking with CEO Beacon Consulting Limited, Dr. Kabir Adamu. Also on the program tonight is US-based security consultant, Dr. Nwachukwu Anankweze. Dr. Adamu, let me continue this conversation with you before I go back to Dr. Anankweze. This is because he had raised an issue earlier, just before we went on that break. He was talking about the need for the president to see to the end of some of these communal clashes and why some Nigerians have refused to live in peace, which takes me to the issue of open grazing. And as a result of that, the federal government says it has not banned open grazing, but is transitioning to national ranching. Doesn't this create a policy confusion for states, security agencies and herders? How can the government claim to be moving toward ranching while still allowing open grazing, which many states have already outlawed?
So yes, that confusion is there, and that's why I think political consensus is very important to address this issue. If we don't have political consensus, then we're going to see this kind of discordant, kind of tunes. The federal government kind of has a position. As you know, it has created the Ministry of Livestock, and then the state governments have also put forward their land governance policies, all of them kind of different. If you go to Benue State, their land governance policy is there. If you go to Nasarawa State, neighboring states, very different land governance policies. So yes, there is a lot of confusion there. I don't expect that open grazing will be banned in one day. It's something that needs to be transitioned over a period because of the consequence of just banning it. It's a cultural issue. It's an economic issue. You have to carry the people along. You have to make them understand what you're trying to achieve. Some of these people have been doing it for decades. Some of them even for centuries. And so coming one day to tell them to stop. And by the way, in my interaction with almost all the Fulani associations, MACBAN, there are 42 of them, by the way. So let me not even start mentioning their names. All of them are supportive of ranching. What they are asking for is some kind of support to allow them go into ranching. Now, if we pick the example, I don't want to mention any state, but there are states that if you look at the laws, even to get access to the land to ranch, it's impossible. We have a state that in its land governance policy, it says if they give you that land and you are inviting a family member to come, you need to seek approval from one of the departments in that state. So imagine a situation where you've bought land or leased it, and then you want your sister to visit you. You now have to go and get permission from a ministry, and knowing the bureaucracy in that country. So
absolutely,
those things are not helpful.
All right.
These things will need time, and I know the Ministry of Livestock Development is doing a lot in that regard. They have documented a lot of things. They've put forward some strategies, and I know that probably they will start implementing those strategies if we fund that ministry adequately. Because I think part of the challenge of that ministry is that it's not adequately funded.
All right, let me go to Dr. Anankweze. And thank you for bringing this to our notice. We've seen how open grazing has contributed to farmer-herder clashes, banditry and rural violence. I'm just wondering, does the government risk worsening insecurity by refusing to ban it outright? How does the federal government reconcile its security objectives with a policy that leaves room for activities linked to violent conflict?
In America, they used to have open grazing. That's how America started. Then gradually they transition into ranching. All the ranches, they have thousands of cows and they grow the food for them in those ranches. That's how it's today. And they have fences that walls them in, and they don't come out of fences. And we have more cows than anywhere in the world. Is better. And then some of them have even meat processing plant within there. place. That's where we need to go. It cannot be done in one day. It needs to be gradually introduced over 6 months to a year. But I have called the Nigerian Buhari was busy building train to Niger, whereas all the states of Nigeria don't have rail. If you have rail connecting all the states of Nigeria, the cows can come from Kano. Overnight, they land in all the states without the violence. That's what you need. You need to build railway that connects all the states of Nigeria so that they can be transported by train or trucks. That's where we have to go. We want the Nama. We're not against Nama. We're not against cow. We just don't want cow headers attacking innocent civilian women, raping women, killing their children. We're not going to tolerate that. But we want an animal, but it needs to be transported by train. We need to build railways connecting all the states of Nigeria, or it needs to be done by trucks. It can't be done in one day. It might take a year or two. So I'm in support of that.
All right.
But
I guess I should stay with you, but this question is for both of you. And this is really worrisome because some Nigerians are concerned about why we have failed to arrest and prosecute these bandits. We've constantly stayed with just two options. We rescue abductees or they release their captives. And there is a disturbing video out there of these bandits mocking the federal government, mocking security agents, boasting that the government could not defeat them. That video has, triggered serious reactions online, with many Nigerians questioning the government's strategy and the growing boldness of these kidnappers. Now, if we look at the years of sustained military operations in the Northwest, why are there still no publicly documented arrest of high-value bandits leaders? Dr. Grazing.
I have called for. I tell the villages to organize themselves. I said that before. The solution, the permanent solution, is for all the villages to be equipped with equipment to fight back. The same thing that they are carrying, the same thing they are carrying the kidnappers and bandits. That's the same thing the villages need to have. The villages are more motivated. They are stronger than the Nigerian Army, Navy, or Air Force. All those people that are Navy, Air Force, DSS, they are not motivated to go and die. But people in the villages are motivated to defend their land. The solution is to equip them, have them organized under this police and the military. We do that in where I come from. We work with the police and military, and they appreciate it because we provide the numbers, and we are the one that's willing to go and fight and die. My place is very safe. I can move around till 4 o'clock in the morning. But if you're depending on federal police, federal army, you're wasting your time. You just want to count dead bodies. It's religious and tribal bigotry that must be fought and defeated. Otherwise, the world will intervene. I'm telling you, they will intervene to stop it. You see what happened in the Middle East? Same thing will happen in Nigeria. So we need to work together. We need each other. We need the North, we need the South, we need the East. We all have different abilities. We need each other's what they can produce. And the North can make food. The Yorubas, the West they are very good in journalism. They're very good in law. The East can manufacture equipment and make things. We need each other. We need to work together and stop killing each other.
Dr. Adam, I'm sure you heard that. What's your perspective on this? Would you blame this on past negotiations? Would you say this is happening because of ransom arrangements or some informal truce? Are there structural problems in our security architecture that makes it very difficult to investigate and prosecute these bandits effectively?
So first off, I think we need to be nuanced when we say these bandits are not being arrested or killed. A significant number of them have been arrested and have been killed. In the last press briefing that the Minister of Information did, if I remember well, he reeled out the number. It doesn't come to my head immediately, but I know he reeled out the number. I also know from my interaction with some of the government departments that they do have records. As an example,
But Nigerians are saying they do not have public knowledge of these when it happens.
Okay, so I'm not sure which category of Nigerians you are referring to.
Oh, well, let me say some Nigerians.
Thank you. But a significant number of other Nigerians do have that knowledge. Bi-weekly, the Defense Headquarters reels out its successes, The NOA, National Orientation Agency, also interacts with Nigerians. It reels out that data. And like I said, the Ministry of Information too reels out this data. But is that enough? I don't want any listener to think I'm absolving the security agencies of additional responsibility. Let's use this recent Kebbi incident where I think 24 girls were abducted, if I'm right. 20-something girls were abducted, 24, 25. And then we were told that it was an engagement that led to their release. You can't engage with a ghost. You engage with someone you have identified and that you have contact with. So as an intel person, I'm asking the million-dollar question. If you know this person and you were able to successfully engage with the person, how come that person is still out there? Why haven't you done the needful to go after that person, that monster that was able to, now that the girls are free, they've been released. So I think those are the type of speculation or chatter that you're probably monitoring on social media, and it's a valid question. There are Bello Turji, as an example. Bello Turji is probably one of the foremost commanders among the bandits. The military, for more than a year now, has declared him wanted. But that man is still out there. And we know where he is. We know how he moves. Bello Turji has become a probably trillionaire. He has assets that he's able to manage, and the security agencies know this. So there are questions that need to be answered. Aside the fact that they are killing some, there are others that they are not killing. If we go to Katsina, peace pact were signed with 18 local governments. As at last week, the ones I counted were 18 local governments. In each of those peace pacts, the bandit commanders attend the conversations. They now sign or agree in principle under certain terms that they've entered a peace pact with the community. So they are known. If you go to Kaduna, Birningwari, a peace pact was signed, which means they know them. Recently, media persons like you, one from Al Jazeera, and then previously another one from BBC, went into the camp of the bandits and interviewed them with their guns. And then he now wrote his report or released their reports, and the world saw it. So those questions are legit. The bandits are there for some odd reasons. Our security forces are failing to go after some of them. Indeed, they're killing others, but then they're failing to go after some of them.
All right, then. And quickly before I go back to Dr. Nankweze, if nothing changes, 19 Northern governors will be meeting tomorrow. What should they be discussing? Why is a unified Northern security framework no longer an option? And what must the governors do differently this time to achieve one?
And I'm hoping they're listening to us, Yumoke. When I disaggregate the data that I mentioned earlier on, about 9,000 people that have been killed, over 80% of those people are in the northern part of the country. So which means about 7,000 northerners have been killed in 2025 alone under the superintending of these governors. The 7,000 abduction that I mentioned, about 85% of that abduction happened in the northern part of the country. So that means almost 5,500 or more of the abducted persons were northerners. So if for any reason the northern governors are not appreciative of the seriousness of the situation, I think they better be at this point in time. And I'm hoping that the meeting will not just be a talk shop, that this time around they will come up with clear strategies. And just for the record, the Arewa Constitutive Forum put up a committee that was headed by General Dambazao. I was a member of that committee. We analyzed the security situation in the north, and we presented a report where we identified not just the drivers, but the triggers and the root causes of the security challenges. Time will not allow me to go into them, but the subgroups that we identified, I'll quickly mention them. Environmental factors such as desertification, and then the receding of the Lake Chad Basin in the north, and the several other climate change consequence that is driving insecurity. The second one we identified are the socioeconomic factors Under that, you have unemployment, the youth bulge, name them. And then you also have the value system, the types of family arrangement, education, name them, all subgrouped under that, as well as cultural. Then you have the political ones. So about four categories that we identified. Why did I bring up? The governors should not feign ignorance. They've been armed with the knowledge that is required for them to address the issue. The second point, very important.
They continue to say they do not have, can you hold on, sir? You know, they continue to say they do not have the constitutional power or the constitutional backing to defeat insecurity in that region.
They may not have the authority to direct security forces, which is their usual complaint. And yeah, they are right. The Constitution does not give them that power to issue directives. But there are subtle ways to manage public security in your state. If they invest in those subtle ways, they will be able to do it. I was going to go to state policing. I think it's absolutely important for the northern governors in their meeting tomorrow to come out with a position. And I'm praying, I'm hoping that their position will not be in contrast with that of the southern governors. Because for God's sake, we need to move ahead. The southern governors have come out with very clear statement. The president has come out with that statement. I'm also hoping the northern governors would toe the line. Let's move. People are dying, and we can't be tied down and disagreeing over a simple matter that should not cause. We're a federal state. If the federal components want state policing, then let's come up with a checklist that allows us to have a federal policing. I agree there are dangers, but we as a people, the fact that we realize that there are those dangers, let's put in place measures to check those dangers before they happen. But we should not be held down by arguments over whether we should have it or not. That is going into two years already. So I'm praying that at that they will come to that decision.
All right. Dr. Nankweze, let me come to you. Another conversation out there is, if we cannot arrest these bandits or bring them to justice, why has it been hard for us to arrest terrorism financiers? When was the last time Nigeria successfully convicted anyone for terrorism financing? From your own perspective, why has it been hard for Nigeria to try terrorism financiers and bring them to justice?
I told you the major problem you have is tribal and religious bigotry. They know what is right, but they don't want to do it because they want to commit genocide and eliminate certain people. It's not from their tribe and their religion. That's the fact. So they're doing all this going around and going around. I already said it many times. You need to, in my place, the state passed law, and we have vigilante in every village. And we don't have much problem. That's the solution. All these other things you can do with federal this, federal that is okay. But that should not be the main thing. The people who are most motivated to defend their place is the local people. And I said it many times. I hope somebody's listening to me. I said, if Nigeria doesn't get this resolved, it's not going to be just Trump. It's going to be the world. The world will invade Nigeria to put an end to this.
I mean, that's not what Nigerians are looking forward to. But let me go back to Dr. Adamu. I want you to speak to the arguments that there are many moves within the Nigerian Security Agency, the ones who provide terrorists and criminals with information about the security agencies, their tactics, their strategies and plans. I mean, what we've heard is that some are even members of Boko Haram themselves or sympathetic to them. And like I said last night, the truth is, no matter how skilled an army is, no matter how excellent a strategy is, as long as traitors exist within the ranks, the best plan would always fail. And that's a reality we've ignored for so long. Are there mechanisms that can help our nation better protect its military from insiders?
Jumoke, do you want the truth?
Yes, I want the truth.
Okay. So in security parlance, in intelligence, there are about three things that are absolutely important. Number one is communication, the integrity of your communication. Jumoke, our military is still using GSM to communicate. And anyone who knows anything about surveillance knows that GSM is vulnerable. So it's likely that we have saboteurs. I'm not excluding that. But the biggest saboteur is the person who has allowed our military to be using GSM to communicate. We should have encrypted means of communication within our security agencies, not just the military. There is nothing that you want today that you won't be able to harvest within that space, because that's how they communicate. Second point is what we call technical counter surveillance, TSCM. TCSM rather, technical counter surveillance measures. Now, the technical counter surveillance measures are measures that you institute to reduce the other side from mounting surveillance on you. As an example, today there is technology. I can be outside a building. I can hear what you are discussing. I can just by looking at your mouth be able to decipher what you are saying. As far back as 1943, 1944, during the Second World War, you saw how they communicated using codes and all of that. But today in Nigeria, I don't want to go deeper into that. We have nothing like technical counter surveillance measures. The minimum that you see is them coming to sweep locations where our VIPs kind of discuss. But remember that the phone we're using to discuss, the platform that we're using to discuss is not owned by us, and there are very little measures to protect that. So why am I giving you this kind of background? The third point is operational planning, or what we call OPSEC, operational security. Now, all of these are vulnerable, Jumoke. So we don't even need saboteurs. We ourselves are sabotaging ourselves. Before we now identify these saboteurs, let's improve on these three areas that I've mentioned. Then automatically the saboteurs will be identified.
Great place to leave this conversation, and an eye-opening conversation once again. And I just hope that every directive that's been sent out this week receive urgent and effective implementation. Thank you so much for speaking with me tonight, gentlemen. Dr. Kabir Adamu is a CEO Beacon Consulting Limited and also security consultant, Dr. Nwachukwu Anankweze. Thank you so much for your time, and please have a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, and you too.
Right. And thank you very much for watching, everyone. That marks the end of today's episode of Politics Tonight. But before we go, let's tell you the views and reactions of our resource persons are theirs and have no connection with TVC News. Meanwhile, you can watch the repeat broadcast of this episode at 12:30 a.m. Get in touch with us on our social media handles, Facebook, Instagram, and X at TVC News NG and at Olajumoke. We're also on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News NG. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Good night, everyone, and have a great weekend. I'll see you on Monday.